Dear ladies and gentlemen, this is the second part of the whole rifle history video. Don't forget to visit patreon.com/capandball, where you can find exclusive content about historical arms, including many studies about firearms history. The whole is covered here with 2 studies with more than 50 pages of info. Let's talk about the charges and the cartridges of the whole rifle. Well, first of all, the whole rifle originally was not intended to be loaded with paper cartridges, but with loose powder and a separate ball, without any patching. So, according to Hall, the ratio of the powder should be 1/5 of the weight of the ball. So, which means if I have a 200 grain bullet, that is 1/5 is 40 grains of powder. He also said that it is also a good method for measuring the proper powder charge when you use your bullet mold as a powder charge. 2.5 times the volume of the powder that can fit into the cavity of the bullet mold should be enough. But actually the powder chamber in the whole rifles is larger than this ratio, which is due to if bad quality powder is used, like old musket powder, not rifle powder, then it can still deliver the same kind of force when firing the rifle. The quality of the powder was quite important because, as I said, there is no lubrication on the cartridge, which is quite rare in case of a rifle. In his 1816 instructions, Hall advised that after 3 shots you should wipe the bore with a wet rag and a dry rag, so continue firing with the same kind of accuracy. But Hall stated that you can fire the gun 10 to 12 times with the same accuracy without cleaning it, if it's necessary. I really have to say that I fired this gun much more times without any cleaning than 12 times, and it did not lose accuracy. So the system is much better. Of course, I was using good quality Swiss black powder, which is the cleanest burning powder today, but this cannot be too far from fine, really good rifle powders of the 19th century.
Ladies and gentlemen, now it is time to try the whole rifle with the original flask. But we have safety rules, which are clever safety rules. That you never load your black powder gun from your flask. Why? Because if this thing is full of powder, it's a hand grenade. If you have some smoldering sparks inside the chamber, it can ignite your powder that you just loaded into the chamber, and it can ignite your powder flask, and it's a hand grenade. It will tear off your arm. It is not safe. So, but still, this is a historical shooting session, and I would like to see from let's say, the researcher's mind how convenient and how fast your rifle can be loaded with the original whole flask. So I'm going to make some additional safety measures. First of all, I only have a little quantity of powder in the flask, which is enough for, let's say, 4 or 5 shots. Second, but it can still blow up, so don't use your flask to charge your rifle. Second, what you will not be able to see in the video, that after each and every single shot, after I open the breech, I will stop and I will clean the chamber to be sure that there is no sparks in it. Cool stuff.
The standard accoutrements for the whole rifle were ammunition flask, a screwdriver, a wiper, a bullet mold. This ammunition flask dispensed the powder charge and also the ball, which was 0.525 inches in diameter. And the powder charge was around 100 grains, but it included the priming powder as well, so which means that when you measured your powder, first with the same charge, you primed the pen, and then you load it into the chambers. So which means that from the 100 grains, you lost something like 15 to 20 grains for priming. So altogether, the complete charge should be around 70 to 80 grains, depending on how strong your finger is when you're pushing it into the spout. This kind of ammunition flask was used up until the end of the 1830s, when it was changed to the standard Rifleman accoutrements. We call this the model 1839 accoutrements, with a little leather pouch that is holding your paper cartridges. But by that time, you could also load your rifle with paper cartridges. Also, you can have your loose balls here, your patches, and of course, your powder in a normal brass flask. Well, these flasks, they had an adjustable spout. The adjustable spout measured powder charges between 85 to 100 grains.
The key for understanding the proper ballistics of a historical arm is to recreate its original charge as accurately as possible. This covers having the proper bullet and building up a load that delivers the service muzzle velocity. Now what you see is the 40-meter group of the whole rifle with the properly recreated service charge. So what I achieve can be considered the contemporary accuracy of the rifle. So this is, ladies and gentlemen, the group of the service load at 40 meters. 3 shots are well within the size of the 10 ring, which is very good. The 10 ring here is 5 centimeters. My aiming point was here at the bottom center of the black area. And altogether the 4 shots are in a very, very tight group, which means that this is an accurate rifle. And the service load was accurate as well. Okay, so the ball is a bit larger because I should have a 5.25 ball and I have a 5.30 ball, round ball. And but the powder charge is the same because the velocity of the charge is the same what was measured in the 1830s, which means that this can be considered a fairly accurate reproduction of the original service charge of the whole rifle. And it is accurate, it's good, as I told you, I love it.
The capacity of this ammunition flask was 18 balls and a pound of powder. These Rifleman accoutrements, they actually served in parallel with the ammunition flasks. The regular troops received the ammunition flasks, while the militia troops, they received that kind of normal 1839 model Rifleman accoutrements. The paper cartridges for the whole rifle appear in the 1834 edition of the Ordnance Regulations. It says that it has 100 grains of powder, it's a fine rifle powder with fine corns, and a 32 to the pound ball, round ball, which is the 0.525 inches round ball, of course from pure lead. It is often mentioned that there is a third cartridge for the whole rifles, which is a patch round bore cartridge. But I doubt that it ever existed, and I tell you why. Okay, so the bore of the length-to-length diameter of this bore is 520, which means that the 525 round bore is actually oversized, so the rifling can grab the bullet perfectly. Now the mouth of the chamber at the receiver is 0.545 inches. Now, when you load your 525 ball wrapped in a patching from linen or from leather, well, it won't fit into this chamber. You can have problems fitting your cartridge into this chamber when you're using not thin enough paper. So which means that I really doubt that this rifle was ever loaded with patched round ball. There are also stories that tell us that the muzzle of the whole rifle is countersunk. So if you check the muzzle, the first 1.5 or 2 inches of the muzzle is countersunk. There is no rifling in it. So you can be able to load the rifle from the muzzle if your breech system gets clogged. Now, that's also, I think it's a bullshit. Because you won't be able to fit a patched round ball, a 525 patch round ball, including the patch, into a bore which is length-to-length diameter is 520. You will have to have excessive force pushing it down, hammering it down. Well, if you're investing that kind of energy into loading your rifle, why don't you just unscrew the breech and clean it? It's much more easy. According to the Ordnance Manual, 10 grains from the 100 grains goes to priming the pen and 90 grains goes into the chamber. Well, according to my experience from modern powder, modern Swiss powder 2F and 3F that I mainly use for firing my gun, you cannot fit 90 grains behind the bullet. Otherwise you won't be able to close the breech because the bullet will just pop out. The maximum charge that you can fit into the chamber behind the ball is around 75-80 grains of powder, depending of course on your corn size. The earliest description of how to make paper cartridges for rifles are coming from a manual, the instructions that was written for the military academy at West Point. It is from 1832 and it is cited by Dean S. Thomas in his excellent book Round Ball to Rimfire. I've been hunting with the whole rifle for 2 months now. That gave me beautiful moments in the enchanting Hungarian woods. I did not shoot anything so far, but enjoyed every activity related to it. One such activity is making your own cartridges in the field. So now lay back, enjoy and relax. Rolling bullets and cartridges the traditional way. The weight of the powder charge remained the same in case of the 52 caliber whole rifles up until the introduction of the percussion locks. When the percussion locks arrived, the charge was reduced to 75 grains. It shows that the ignition of the percussion system is much more intense, so you need less powder for the same velocity. And of course, you did not have to prime the pen, which saves a lot of powder. Now, when you were using paper cartridges for the whole rifle, the paper had to be disposed. According to the manual written by Hall himself in 1816, it says, when cartridges are used, paper should be thrown away after the powder has run into the receiver. I found that this is true. If you are trying to charge your ball with the paper into the chamber, it is getting harder and harder as the chamber gets filled. For me, the easiest method was just buy the cartridge, prime the pen, close it, pour the powder into the chamber, turn the cartridge, insert the ball and tear away all the excess material. If you charge the complete empty case, paper case into the chamber, probably you won't be able to fit the bullet on top of the powder. It will just take too many volume from the chamber. Usually when we are trying to recreate the ballistics of a firearm like this, an antique firearm, we are in kind of a problem because we don't really know what the exact muzzle velocity of that bullet was. Even if we know completely what the projectile was and we know the volume of the powder charge or weight of the powder charge and the corn size of the powder charge, we still are not able to replicate it. We need the muzzle velocity. In case of the whole rifle, we are very lucky because in 1843-44, Captain Alfred Mordecai carried out intensive trials with all the existing arms of the US Army, including the whole rifle, and they measured the muzzle velocity of these guns with the service charges using ballistic pendulum. The ballistic pendulum was invented by Benjamin Robbins in 1742, and from that point we can calculate the velocity of the bullet impacting the pendulum itself. Now, during these trials, they used 70 grains of DuPont fine rifle powder, that was codename was A5 powder, and they determined that the muzzle velocity of these bullets, the 5.25 lead round ball, was around 1,470 feet per second. Now, this was around 15% less than compared to the same charge with the common rifle. And if the common rifle was loaded with the 100 grain powder charge, the difference was even much more. So this proved that actually we lose some gas pressure in the joint between the breech and the barrel.
Okay, so from the 1844 test we know the initial velocity of this bullet, which was converted to meters per second, is around 450 meters per second. This is what you have to replicate. So I'm going to charge the rifle the same way as it was done in these tests, which means that I'm going to charge it with loose powder. I start with 83 grains, and I'm going to charge it with a naked ball without any patching. Let's check it. Powder in the chamber, and as I see, we just have enough space for the 530 round ball to be seated on top with 82 grains. So this is the capacity of the chamber. Let's check the velocity. We start a new series. That's it. I prime it from an external flask. Let's check it. 418. That's slower. 30 meters per second and slower. Let's fire another round. Just to see what kind of deviation we have in the muzzle velocity due to the large gap between the bore and the breech. Let's get the ball. It's closed. 3.2. It's still 20 meters per second lower. Okay, so the 83 grains of 1.5 F Swiss powder reach the capacity of the chamber, which means that if I load more, I won't be able to insert the bullet. So I change the powder granulation. The next step I have here with me is 3 F Swiss powder, so I reduce the charge to 75 grains of 3 F Swiss powder. Now, this gives enough space for the bullet to be inserted, for sure. Okay. Let's prime. Series. And that's it. So 75 3 F Swiss powder. 448. Seems like the Swiss powder is quite equivalent to the rifle powder that they were using on the test. But we have to confirm it with another shot. Let's get the ball. Let's check it. .460. So that's the first shot. 448 meters per sec initial velocity. And the muzzle velocity of the second one is 460, which means that we are quite close to the original results. So if you are looking for an equivalent for the 70 grains of the rifle powder of the 19th century, then 75 grains of 3 F Swiss powder will do fine. Quite interesting.
Hall wrote the following about the trajectory of his rifle in his 1826 manual. The point-blank range of the rifle is 100 yards, and they will overshoot a little at short distances and will undershoot at greater distances. But it will not be necessary for the man to make much or any allowance when shooting at an object of a height of a man at a distance of 180 yards. Beyond that, allowances must be made. My targets proved that Hall's instructions were right. Both at 40 and 80 meters my shots were high. A quick simulation of the trajectory shows that the bullet drops below the vital zone of the upper body at around 170 meters, close to the distance Hall indicated. The 100-grain charge of the Mississippi rifle, the model 1841 percussion Mississippi rifle, firing the same 5.25 ball, propelled the bullet to 2018 feet per second. That is a great velocity for a muzzle loader. So the difference is quite big, but in fact the 70-grain powder with the Hall rifle just served very good. The terminal ballistics of the flintlock common rifle and the Hall flintlock breech-loading rifle were compared in 1837 by government officials, and it turned out that the penetration of these bullets, of the Hall bullets, in seasoned white oak is around half compared to the common rifle. The common rifle was able to put dents into the wood, let's say at 300 yards, but at 300 yards the Hall rifle's bullets were not able to scratch them.
Okay, so this is how the accoutrements for the flask worked. So we have a leather stripe here, it's sewed together, and we have a buckle here, and actually you have two flaps on the leather coverage that was used for handling it safely and securely. You have two flaps here which allow you to secure the flask to the stripe two ways. The first one is a traditional way with the valves up. You This is how you carry your flask in everyday position. "18 balls and 1 pound of powder in it. That's it. And when it is bad weather, you have rain, then you can just simply change the direction according to John Hancock Hall's recommendation and wear the flask upside down, so the rain cannot get to the area of the valves. And that's it. Clever, isn't it?
In 1826, Hall wrote a new manual of exercises for the new rifles that was probably never published. It described the proper way of charging the rifle with the combination flask. When rapid firing was necessary, the following commands were used. The procedure was started with the load in quick time command. It was followed by raise receiver to open the breech. After this, the frism was opened with the open pen command. Now came the handle flask command that is completely unique. At this point the soldier grabs the flask hanging on his right side, turns it downward, obstructs the powder spout with his index finger, opens the valve with the thumb to allow the powder to fill the spout, closes the valve and turns the flask up. On the command prime, pours a small amount of powder in the pen, while on the shut pen command he closes the pen and moves the flask to the mouth of the chamber. Now comes the load with powder command, and the soldier pours the rest of the powder into the chamber. The next command is load with ball. The soldier moves the dispenser to the mouth and drops a bullet into the chamber and pushes it in place with the little finger. On the command shut receiver, he closes the breech. The procedure is finished with the ready, aim and fire commands.
And this is probably the best mad minute I have ever shot. And this group tells me that the rifle is comfortable when you're shooting fast, okay, faster than usual. Then the stock of the rifle is vital, and this has a Kentucky rifle stock, a long rifle stock, which means it must be comfortable for offhand shooting, standing position. And I really have to say that for a flintlock rifle, the rate of fire is also excellent. It is not the fastest thing on earth, but who cares? It is up to the levels of the smoothbore musket. It's more than the smoothbore musket, which means that without paper cartridge I can fire this rifle more times than any kind of firearm in that age and more accurately. So this is a deadly arm.
Now we already know what we have to do if we want to fire the whole rifle fast. But Hall, in his manual of 1826, had some instructions on how to hold the rifle for maximum accuracy and how to treat the rifle for maximum accuracy. So in the first motion, the soldier lowered the butt to the ground and pulled the ramrod. He attached the wiper on the end and pushed the small wet rag through the hole on the wiper. And during the loading procedure, he held the ramrod in his left hand. He completed the loading procedure just as in case of the normal fast loading method, using the combination flask of course, but when it came to firing, he supported the button end of the ramrod on his hip and supported the rifle with using the ramrod. Now, this is not something new because we have accounts from the early 16th century showing the same kind of hold for a matchlock gun or a tinder lock. but I really have to say that probably this is the last time it is mentioned in any kind of manual. Now, when you were shooting for maximum accuracy, the bore had to be cleaned after each and every single shot, which meant that the soldier on the command sponge just pushed the wet rag through the bore several times to clean it completely. Interesting. Let's see now what the whole rifle could achieve at 80 meters with a service charge. The aiming point is the bottom center of the black.
Let's check it. And that is the 80-meter groups, ladies and gentlemen. It is quite good. Let's say the 4 shots are within the size of a 10-centimeter group, which is good, I love that. It's good for hunting, so we are going to hunt with the whole rifle.
So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. You've been watching the Capandball YouTube channel. If you like what I do, then please share, comment, like, subscribe. This will help the channel to grow. If you want more from Capandball, then please log into a Patreon page, become a supporter, and you will receive exclusive content. But you will also receive exclusive content on the History of Weapons and War platform, where we are also present. So you have plenty of chances to watch Capandball, shooting old guns. So ladies and gentlemen, up until next time, stay cool and keep your powder dry.